AskReddit by Zare0W0 Rise. What success story is widely thought of as rags to riches, but in reality they were wealthy individuals all along? Didn't Kylie Jenner get an award for youngest self-made billionaire or something ridiculous when we all know she didn't do that herself? Also, she never came close to a billion-dollar business market cap rate. Drake, who grew up in a ghetto in Canada, yet could afford to play hockey as a kid, was on TV at 15 because of connections, and his first concert was as the opening for Ice Cube. Definitely didn't start from the bottom. The ghetto he grew up in is one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in the country. Yes, he may have been the poorest kid in the neighborhood, but it's a distorted scale. Aubrey Drake Graham. Started from the bottom, now we're here. Bullshit, bitch. You grew up in Forest Hill, one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Toronto. Deleted. Deleted. Maybe his messy hairstyle made him pass as homeless. For some time Kylie Jenner was applauded for being the youngest self-made billionaire, even though she was born into a multimillionaire family. Her billion-dollar valuation was also based on bogus business data. Guy I used to work with was one of those types who always bragged how he saved, and you could do the same as me and stop whining about being poor. He always skipped that part about his dad being a very successful businessman who gave him a job and a free house as soon as he was an adult. Now, on the flip side, I worked with an 18-year-old kid who asked if he could borrow one of my servers to host a little website he was playing with. He was a good worker, always asking good questions, and learned fast. Sure kid, knock yourself out. He worked really hard on it too. 5 years later that site was one of the biggest on the internet and he's worth millions. Last time I googled him he was retired and spending most of his life traveling around. I won't dox him by saying his name, but it's a review site. An acquaintance of mine told me I would be fine after I got divorced. I was financially ruined. I survived. 1 year later he got divorced, and his parents bought him a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house. Money might not buy happiness, but it sure helps with being able to choose your own form of suffering. When Stelios Hadjiioannou, founder of EasyJet, was asked what was the secret to becoming a multimillionaire, he answered, having a father who is a multi-billionaire. At least this one was honest. Jeff Bezos was a hedge fund manager and VP at a banking firm before he founded Amazon. His grandparents were well-to-do energy politicians. His grandfather also was a co-founder of DARPA. Bill Gates starting Microsoft in his garage. His mother was the child of a banker who was the child of a Federal Reserve chairman. She was also on the board of IBM, University of Washington, a major bank, and United Way. His father was a lawyer. While a lot of these billionaires certainly massively increased their wealth, being wealthy to begin with allowed them to take the risks to become ultra wealthy. I like the county fair analogy. Imagine one of those games at the fair with the giant stuffed animal prize. The giant stuffed animal prize is becoming ultra wealthy. The rich kids have enough money to take many shots to attempt to win the prize. The middle class kids get enough to take 1 or 2 shots. The poor kids get no shots because they're the ones working the fair. Kid Rock. Yeah. He cosplays as a poor boy who got rich. Trump used to claim that he got his start with a small loan of $1 million, but in fact he was given over $400 million and a Manhattan real estate portfolio worth nearly $1 billion. Just once, I wish someone would have pushed back when he made the claim of starting his own real estate business. It would have been so easy to ask, okay, so whatever happened to your father's vast real estate empire? Bill Gates. His dad was a corporate attorney and probably was the one to tell him, listen, don't sell this dude's thing to IBM, see if they'll license it. This is who I thought of as well, though I don't think he's popularly seen as rags to riches, more something like talented tech guy succeeds because of meritocracy, whereas it's quite likely family connections got him his First important contract, https://www.currentaffairs.org/2021/05/humanity-does-not-need-bill-gates close bracket. Every young person at the news always puts articles out about who are like, this is how I managed to buy a home at 22. They're rich. That's always the answer. They work a 9-5 and they save €50 a week. Their parents left them €100,000 and they don't order takeaways. If we can do it, so can you. Edit. I'm loving reading the stories of how some of you were able to actually pull this off on your own. It's nice to see there are success stories. When I started Reinholm Industries, I had just two things, a dream and £6 million. Kid Rock grew up on an estate, not in a trailer. Also went to an extremely expensive private boys' school in Detroit. Cinderella. She never lost her wealth technically. She was already a high-class lady and was never poor. I'm glad someone pointed that fraud out. On the inverse, Cristiano Ronaldo is true rags to riches, I believe. I think most true rags to riches stories is through athletics, particularly football, because it's inexpensive to play, at least at first. I think that's why many go broke after their playing career. Many of them support a lot of their family members and friends. Billie Eilish. People think she did it herself as a young teen, but her family has been in the industry for years. Every pop singer that appears out of nowhere every few years is like this. Pioneer woman. Not remembering full specifics here, but she's always made it sound like she's just a down-home country gal type thing when her family was like 12th largest landowner in Oklahoma and Marlboro Man's family was 8th largest in Oklahoma. She was loaded even before she started Pioneer Woman. She's more loaded now. It also annoyed me how early in her career she emphasized that she moved from Neck to live on a ranch as if it was some whole new world, when she was from OK to begin with. Like what? So you moved home? To your well-off family and in-laws? After living in NY for like 2 years? K. I had an oh moment when I learned that the lead singer from the Red Hot Chili Peppers' childhood babysitter was both Sonny and Cher. Or, another way to describe this is, they thought they had hit a triple when in fact they were born on third base. I've also heard they thought they hit a home run but they were born on third base. Same idea, but it includes that someone else actually got them across home plate. Drake. Started from the, not doing too bad actually, now we hear. Wheelchair Jimmy. Mao Zedong. His father was a very wealthy farmer. Matter of fact, the wealthiest of his region. Honestly didn't know this one. People actually thought Gates has rags to riches story. Gates and the late Paul Allen, the other Microsoft billionaire, met at private school in Seattle, and this has been well documented. Gates himself never pushes that narrative though, he's just more of a well-off family to billionaire story. I hate to admit it, but the Strokes. A friend of mine was involved with them in some form business and they had dinner together many times. He said they were all insufferable rich kids. He didn't give any other details other than saying that they were annoying cunts. Musk, Gates, Zuckerberg, Michael Dell, actually really any billionaire. Some of these people were just upper middle class, but having a family with equity that will help you is so insanely beneficial. John Paul DeJoria, owner of Patreon, was homeless at several points before helping to start Paul Mitchell. They scraped up $700 between the two of them to start the business. Most music bees. Very rare artist band didn't already start out ahead, either financially or socially. Making it big in music relies heavily on who you know too. My aunt's family is rich. Her husband owns several businesses and rental properties, both commercial and residential. Also has millions in investments. His father was a very successful businessman who owned a wide variety of businesses and commercial properties. Everything from loan offices to parking garages, dirt lots, apartments, hotels and high-rise office buildings. My aunt's kids always bragged about how they were doing things on their own and starting their own companies, living in an apartment straight out of high school, flipping houses, blah blah blah. Truth is that daddy owns the apartments they lived in rent-free. Daddy paid for all of their experiences from clothing, food, bills, school, insurance, etc. Also bought them all brand new vehicles. Funded whatever business ideas they came up with. Kudos to them for going to college and getting a degree, but they got one hell of a head start in life. Ariana Grande for sure. Don't know if she's exactly considered rags to riches necessarily. But she had a ton of support and funding from her family and peers since childhood within the theater and entertainment industry. I know her close relatives and they were all loaded before she was a thing. 99% of all rags to riches. Agreed. Oprah is basically the only actual rags to riches story I know of. Ayn Rand. Claimed to come from nothing but grew up in a wealthy family in Russia. To be fair, they did get all their stuff taken from them by the Soviet Union government though, but got constant handouts and connections through her parents when she came to America. She was more riches to rags, ended her life on Social Security and Medicare. Naruto. Orphan child with nothing. His whole character trope is that he has nothing to give him an advantage over his peers and he has to work hard to accomplish his goals. Turns out he's the son of the former Hokage, has one of the strongest bloodlines in history, also is a reincarnation of the son of a literal god, and has the second strongest tailed beast sealed inside of him from literally day one. Fucking phony. Rock Lee was the real Naruto all along. Trump's daddy was loaded and gave him the money to start out. Fun fact, if Trump had just put his inheritance into an index fund, he would have made more money than what he made from his shady real estate deals and bankrupting multiple companies. Musk likes to play around with the whole I came from nothing stick. But doesn't tell you his father owned a goddamn diamond mine. My favorite was when he was downplaying denying the mine thing and his dad goes, "Oh yeah, no, I totally own, Ed, an emerald mine." White Goodman. Started Globagem America Corp and turned it into a sensation with a large inheritance from his father Earl Goodman. Not really well known for being rich, but Charles Darwin. In fact, the only way you could focus on discovering and researching the laws of nature was if you were rich back then, because you needed the time and resources, money and a ship, which also cost money, to do anything other than work for pay and not starving to death. But Charles' colleague, forgot his name, encouraged Charles to publish his Theory of Evolution book, and he did go from rags to riches by selling his animal specimens to Darwin, but then got poor again after investing in railroads. There's a line named after him that's near New Zealand. Charles Darwin's father was a successful MD, so successful that at first he could pay for the multi-year trip on the Beagle, and later on the father was so rich he could pay Charles an annuity. Indeed, Charles became, like most men of his time, an investor, quite successful too, as he could support a large family. Dave Ramsey and Warren Buffett had good starts in life. Charlie Munger, Warren's right-hand man, had a Harvard lawyer dad and a judge granddad. https://www.wikiwend.com/yen/Charlie_Munger. Oh, and he applied to Harvard after the war, didn't have the under degree he needed to get in, but a family friend called the dean, and hey, now little Charlie didn't need a degree to get in. Funny how that works. Man, reading these, it's almost like the whole rags to riches concept was just made up as American capitalist propaganda to justify their entire system of really not letting people get from rags to riches. It's called the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it. George Carlin. Lana Del Rey. Billie Ellis's entire family works in show business. Are you telling me the American dream isn't real for us? That's why it's called the American dream, because you gotta be asleep to believe it. George Carlin. Taylor Swift's dad bought a record label just to sign her. Lol. Weird, I thought her first label was Big Machine. Most famous hockey players. Hockey is a super expensive sport to play as a kid and at any kind of competitive level. With the exception of a few players who were scouted and sponsored due to talent, most pros grew up in at least a middle-class household. Dog, I used to work at a law firm for a few years. This one attorney was making $250 K plus. His wife was a lawyer at Coca-Cola. She was making over $300 K. He constantly complained about how his 2 sons playing hockey was pretty much eating up all his money. Drake. Be nice. He was in a wheelchair. Why is this thread the same fucking 5 people repeated exclamation point? Richard Branson. Drake. We started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom of his current tax bracket, that is. Taylor Swift. Conor McGregor. A lot of people seem to think he was homeless. He wasn't. I grew up around the corner from his family home. His family wasn't rich, but they certainly weren't poor either. I think he himself has pushed a narrative of struggling on the dole. I'm gonna say it, Billie Eilish. She uploaded this to SoundCloud and got big as a load of crock. Whichever dude apparently started a business out of his garage.